On the night of April 21, 1975, the president of South Vietnam sat before a television camera in Saigon's Independence Palace and wept. Not discreetly. In uniform. On national broadcast. The city of Xuân Lộc had fallen that afternoon, and the road to Saigon, flat and unobstructed for 75 kilometers, was open. Xuân Lộc sat at the junction of highways 1 and 20, the last natural choke point before the terrain surrendered entirely to open lowland. General Le Minh Dao had put roughly 8,000 men of the ARVN 18th Division against 4 North Vietnamese divisions. For 12 days, beginning April 9, they held. They called in blue, 82 Daisy cutters dropped from circling C-130s, fought block by block through the market town, and for a brief, improbable window, it looked like the line might actually mean something. It didn't hold. On April 21, the surviving defenders broke and scattered into the surrounding jungle. Whatever window had existed, for negotiation, for ceasefire, for any version of a different ending, closed with them. Nguyễn Văn Thiệu spoke for 90 minutes. He accused the United States of abandoning South Vietnam. He named Henry Kissinger directly. He quoted the 1973 Paris Peace Accords, the pledges of air support, of resupply, of a guarantee that had arrived on paper and then, when needed, nowhere else. The Americans, he said, have not been faithful to their promises. His voice broke. He had tears on his face. And by most honest assessments of the documentary record, he was right. 4 days later, on the night of April 25, Thiệu boarded a C-118 transport at Tan Son Nhut Airport. He took a considerable amount of luggage. Multiple witnesses, among them American embassy personnel present that evening, later noted the cargo included gold bars, reportedly drawn from the National Bank of Vietnam. He flew first to Taiwan, where Chiang Chinh-kuo received him. Later, Guilford, England. Later still, a quiet house in Foxborough, Massachusetts, where he lived until 2001. What he left behind had 9 days left. His successor, Tran Van Hung, lasted a week. The man after that, General Dung Van Minh, lasted 2 days before broadcasting his own surrender on the morning of April 30. The Independence Palace, where Thiệu had wept on camera, still stands, preserved now as a museum. You can walk into the room where he gave that speech. The chair is still there. Strip away the grief and the ceremony and what remains is a sequence: a city fell, a man wept, a man was right, and then a man left with gold. The Paris Accords guaranteed American support, that support was absent when it mattered. 12 days at Xuân Lộc bought almost nothing. 9 days after Thieu's speech, the country he led ceased to exist, passed across 3 presidents in succession, each one a little closer to the microphone that would broadcast surrender. The chair in the Independence Palace is still there. The country it once represented is not. What strikes us is the luggage. Not as corruption, that's the easy read, but as a signal. He knew what was coming long before the camera turned on. He wept anyway, in uniform, for 90 minutes, and by most honest accounts, he was right about everything he said. We don't think those tears were theater. We think a man can grieve something genuinely and still be making arrangements to leave. What we can't resolve is this: if you were right about being abandoned, what do you owe the people who had nowhere to go?